Hi, I'm Alex Matthew and we're back with another episode of BQ Portfolio. Today we're going to help Subhag Dolke from Pune figure out how to fund his higher education. Subhag wants to study international relations in Geneva. And now to help him with this plan, here's Karthik Javeri, Director at Transcend Consulting. Now, let's get to the crux of the issue. Subhag, just so we're clear, you want to get into this course next year? Are you willing to extend this time horizon by any amount of time, by a year perhaps?
Ideally I plan to apply and get in next year, but I don't know if I don't have enough money saved up. I guess I'll have to push it by another year.
Okay, now that's the crux of the matter, the money that you've saved up and the money that you have available. I'm just going to run through the numbers here. You're earning about 10,000 a month. You're just starting out. It's understandable. You have expenses of about 6,000 rupees a month, which leaves you with a surplus of 4,000 rupees a month. And I understand that your father is also investing on your behalf about 4,000 rupees a month. Is that a good enough snapshot of your financials at this point?
Yeah, that's accurate enough.
Okay, so now I'm opening the floor for this conversation to be taken forward by Karthik. Karthik, these are the numbers that we have.
So, Subhag, in my opinion, one of the first things that I really want to do is tell you and your dad that when you are looking at some expenditure, whatever it is, within the next 1 year or 2 years, you cannot be investing a lot of money into equities. So now your father is paying 4,000 a month in SIPs and you also have a surplus of approximately 4,000. So together you'll have 8,000 rupees which is investable and which obviously at the end of the year is 8 12 or 96. So you're going to have about a lakh of rupees one way or the other. Of course, you've also got existing mutual fund investments to the tune of about 1.6 lakhs. So in totality, at the end of a year, I can see that you will have close to about 2.6. But having said that, I want to go back to my first point. When you are going to spend in a year's time, you can't have too much of equities. You don't know what's going to happen. What if, let's say by the time that you want to go, you are budgeting this expenditure for something and the market's actually down and you don't want to sell and you're probably making a little bit of a loss. So principally speaking, equity investments cannot be done for goals and activities which are less than 4 or 5 years in time frame. So which is why this is not prescribed. My suggestion would be invest on a recurring deposit or invest in a liquid fund or a short-term bond fund, which will get you about 6 to 7. Unfortunately, it doesn't do better than that. But then your money is safe. Of course, you also know one more thing, Subhag, that your budget to go for your course is 20 lakhs. And we are going to have approximately 10% of that. If you delay that by another year, maybe another lakh of rupees and you'll have about 3.5 lakhs, but you still have quite a gap to cover. So I've got two strategies for you to consider and something even I used when I went abroad many years ago for education. So, there are lots of scholarships available, lots and lots of trusts in Pune, in Mumbai are available who give you grants. Some of those are gifts, some of those are grants, and some of them are grants which are returnable if you can, there's no pressure. And some of them are purely a loan, but they don't really chase you like a bank if you are not able to return it. But we should always try and return. So does that make sense to you? I mean, because you have to borrow, right? So, but we don't want to borrow too much money and put pressure on your dad. But in the meanwhile, scholarships, does that sound like a good idea? Have you tried anything? Have you thought about it?
So there are a few scholarship programs for the colleges where I plan to apply, or rather the one college that I want to really get into, and I do plan to apply for those.
Right. Okay, so those are the scholarships that you're going to get from your international study. I'm actually talking about scholarships that are available in India, in Mumbai, in Pune, places which are close to you. See, there are lots of charitable trusts. There are trusts set up by a lot of families. And if you actually do just a little bit of research on this one, you'll find a whole long list of trusts and private bodies who give these kind of little loan help to deserving students. They'll of course look at your 10th standard, your 12th standard. Have you thought about this option? Have you, initiated any activity in this area?
No, not really, if I'm to be honest.
So my suggestion is, try and do this thing, because this is going to really help you. You might be surprised. You may have to do a little bit of legwork, because you've got the time, you've got 1 year or maybe 2 years on hand, and you could even line it up. You could even say that I'm not going now, but I'm going to go in 2019 or maybe 2020, and you could line it up. They could give you an approval. And when your time is there to go, you could actually just write to everybody, visit everyone, and before you know, you'll have a couple of lakhs with you. Now, isn't that really cool? There are lots of people, great people, good people who are doing charities. Now, the second part of the strategy is that you need to obviously borrow. I mean, you need to, meaning your dad needs to borrow. Now, when you go abroad, banks allow you to have 20 lakhs of loan for international study. So that's allowed, that's possible. Your father will have to mortgage maybe the house or some other asset. Is that a doable thing in your family?
I hope so.
Okay, because you see, that's going to tide you over, because the moment you take that loan, you or your dad, you all are not under pressure to start paying the EMI immediately. You can take the money, do your education. A lot of times you also have a moratorium period, and once you come back, start working, or maybe 1 or 2 years has passed after your course gets over, then you have to start repayment process. And in that process, there's a tax deduction. So whatever interest you pay, you get some benefit.
So this course, with it, you intend to come back to India to work?
So ideally, I would like to come back to India to work, but if I get better work opportunities either abroad or in Geneva itself, or like the most elite job opportunity after this course would be to get a chance to work with the United Nations. So
okay, that's actually a very august goal and plan that you've set for yourself in terms of the career that you have. But I think what Karthik would bring to this table is that if you do come back to India, there are certain advantages with regard to the tax that you would pay after having taken a student loan, right, Karthik?
Absolutely. So that happens not only for you, but for all the viewers who are seeing this thing. When you take an education loan and when you start repayment of that education loan, we have a section, it's called section 80E. It's different from your 80C, it's different from all the other deductions that we talk of. It's a separate section which the government has given you for the benefit of educating yourself, getting education, whatever loans you take and the interest that you pay on that. But having said all of that, I also want to tell you one little thing, about the United Nations job that you mentioned. It's probably a good idea that you tell the banker or the banks who are going to give you some loan and the scholarship institutions that you're going to approach about the prospects of your job. That might, sort of make them feel that this is a really nice thing to do. You're going to do something really interesting 2, 3 years, 4 years down the line, and therefore they might be motivated to give you a little more money as well. So keep that in your mind.
How much time do I have before I need to start repaying the loan, and what would be the procedure? Like, how should I go about it?
Very good question. I think
Absolutely.
You're talking about a moratorium.
Yes. So most lenders will give you money. You can go and do your course. Of course, so your course duration, you are not under any pressure to pay. After you finish your course, most of the lenders will give you about a year's time.
It's an 18-month course, and then you have an internship.
Okay, fair enough. So now the moment your course gets over in 18 months time, then you will have approximately 1 year's time, which is the moratorium that most people give. If you are in an internship, it's actually even nicer, because you will automatically start accumulating some money to make some payment. You inform the lender or the bank that you borrowed from, and at that time, which is say 18 plus 12 months, at the end of 30 months or 2.5 years down the line, they will tell you how much is the installment that you need to pay every month, how much is your EMI, and that will go on for the next 5 years or 7 years. So different lenders have different policies, but those things can be clarified with the borrower, with the lender in question. So when you are actually applying for a loan, different institutions will have different terms and conditions, and that could be understood at that time. But definitely 1 year of a time period before you start repayment, and definitely about 5 to 7 years for starting the EMI process and the tenure available to you to repay your loan.
So as a policy, Subhag, this is called a moratorium on the payment of the loan that you make, or the repayment of the loan that you make, and this actually can be negotiated with each institution that you approach. And there's nothing to say that you can't get a part scholarship. So you can get a portion that is given to you by an institution, a trust, and you can borrow the rest. And there is always a moratorium that is attached to student loans.
Okay. Sure.
All right. So I hope, Subhag, that we've helped you clarify some of those doubts that you have and to lay out a plan with regard to the education that you plan. I can only wish you all the best and to remember us fondly when you get your job at the United Nations. Karthik, as always, thank you so much for joining us on this conversation and for helping Subhag out. For all of you out there who've watched this show, if you're planning a course abroad, I hope that this helped you out to a certain extent with regard to planning. If you've got any questions for us beyond the scope of education, we can talk about anything under the sun that is financial related. You can write in to us on portfolio@bloombergquint.com and we'll help you out. Thanks so much for watching. This is Bloomberg Quint. The conversation and advice dispensed by the financial advisors on Bloomberg Quint's television show Portfolio aims at giving the guests on the show a broad approach toward their finances. The advice is not a full financial plan. Viewers are advised to work with a financial planner for specific products, choice and execution when making an independent decision regarding investments or acting on any advice. Any calculated projections or any predictions given on Bloomberg Quint's platform during the show are not guaranteed and are merely an expression of opinion and are not intended for other than illustration purposes only. No view mentioned on the program is personal advice to anyone. Bloomberg Quint is not responsible for any risk or loss that might occur as a result of placing this information into action in any way and regardless of your interpretation of the advice.